steadily it rises. Public preference for Lincoln Continental as the symbol for today's luxury motoring.
Hey, it's Jason ODB, the Lincoln Addict, and I'm hitting you guys with another video. Up next is a 61 Lincoln Continental sedan, and let's take a look at it. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. I have been going through the 11 or so cars that sold at Barrett Jackson Scottsdale 2023. That was January of this year, and we started at the lowest price. We're going up to the highest. We have two after this. This is arguably the biggest surprise for a sedan from a 60s Lincoln perspective at Barrett Jackson Scottsdale. This one sold with the buyer fee for $231K. Now, this custom 61 Lincoln Continental sedan is basically a full-blown Resto mod. It's powered by a pro-charged 351 cubic inch Windsor V8 with Holley Sniper fuel injection and a custom engine bay treatment we'll look at in a moment. Has air ride, the front and rear kit, Devious Customs. So shout out to Jeff at Devious Customs, sponsor of the podcast, and what I have on my 64 Lincoln Continental as well. It has 10-man fab and ride tech for providing the Lincoln's look and ride. So I think 10-man fab did the installation and potential additional work. This might be a photo from said shop. That's my guess. And then, of course, it does have ride tech components as well. Stopping power is four-wheel Willwood disc brakes, so a huge name in the disc brake world. 22-inch Raceline Manhattan wheels keep it planted on the ground. This Lincoln has been dipped in a custom two-tone PPG black metallic and Rowan red paint. Fresh chrome throughout. Inside, it's finished with black leather interior from Seams Impossible Custom Interiors in Salt Lake City, Utah. Let's look at the listing here and see what we're looking at. So again, it sold for $231K, which for a sedan is a huge price that's not tied to JFK. And going from memory, this might be the record that I can think of for a sedan. Now, the last sedan I believe that had the record in my head was the sedan that has the Dodge motor in it. So that was a little bit different, and this thing certainly to bring over $200,000 for a sedan is just insane. Let's take a look on how and why it brought that much money. So here's the main lead photo that we had. Basically, you have the 61, which we just did a review of the black convertible. And you think to yourself, well, how does a sedan go for more than a vert? Well, not everyone wants a convertible, right? But you go, well, Jason, the convertibles have a lot less production numbers. Certainly. Someone might want a sedan for the comfort, especially, talking about AC and things like that. We'll see if it has AC, if we can tell. But you basically get a really nice 61 sedan with awesome paint, a low stance. It kind of has that custom look and feel. Now, here's the rear three-quarter shot. We can't really see a lot in these photos, so let me see. Yeah, see they're a little bit smaller photos, unfortunately. But what we can see is the paint looks really good. All of the trim and stuff looks good from what we can see. It's hard to tell if there's any scratches or if this is just the lighting inside the shop. But certainly what we've read so far, I would venture to say that this is probably a very nice, well-built car. Here is, I think, the crown jewel of this car, and what really sells it and helps drive the price up is it has this modern, custom, I guess is a better word, a custom engine bay look. Now, arguably the MEL 430, the MEL 430 engine would have been fine in this engine bay, but as you guys know, you really can't do much to those engines, right? They kind of just look the way they look. What someone's done here with this Windsor engine is basically they've spruced up the engine bay, and you have like a totally different look and feel when you open the hood when you see this, right? So this is something kind of award-winning engine bay That's very, very nice. For whatever reason, maybe the MEL 430, maybe it was tired, maybe it was going to be too much to rebuild, and they said, hey, we've got this in the shop. For whatever reason, they went with this setup. And again, when you look at it, you go, man, if you want a custom Lincoln, this is certainly freaking awesome looking. You've got the dual reservoir master cylinder. You've got just all of these extra components. You got a really nice dual fan setup, and really just it screams hot rod. It screams custom. Now, something to keep in mind, having come from the mini truck scene and been around kind of hot rods and custom vehicles a long time, one thing I would tell you is these pieces that are made for the engine bay, they often look really, really awesome. I'm always curious what's behind them. Is it just the factory stuff that they've kind of covered up? Because certainly when you add these pieces, it does give it a nicer look, but it doesn't always, there's not always a reason other than making it look nicer, right? So I like to clarify that. Now, from what I can see with some of the hardware and stuff like that, these probably easily bolt in and bolt out. And even if the factory apron was underneath this, again, I would still appreciate the work that's put into it because it does really look nice. And it's often when someone stuffs in a modern engine or something that's more hot rod-ish and the engine bay looks like crap, you kind of go, wow, why would you do the engine and not make the engine bay look really nice? And that's kind of what they've done here. We can see it does appear that they have the factory hood latch. So again, with what's back here, other than maybe removing things that are no longer needed, for instance, if the windshield wiper motor back here was no longer needed and let's say they took it out, what my assumption is that these panels are just kind of covering the stock items or what used to be there. Certainly not a dig at all. I look at this engine bay and go, wow, it looks awesome. I really like what they've done here on top of the valve covers and whatnot, and just looks killer. What we can see here in the interior, fully custom. So very reminiscent, I would say, of like the hot rod car that Nick Griot from Griot's Garage has. He has that really awesome hot rod-ish sedan. This car, when you look at the interior, it looks awesome. The paint ties in nicely to the headliner material. They kept the factory dome light here. And we can see there's obviously a lot of custom work done on the dash, including this whole centerpiece is kind of shaved. It looks like a trim panel that was created to cover all of that. Certainly different, and I like it. Now, this car obviously is not going to appeal to a purist or someone that wants like, hey, your normal $10,000, $15,000 sedan that you can sometimes find, right, and pick up a nice car. This thing is heavily modified, and it's going after a different kind of clientele, so to speak. With this photo, we see a little bit better here. We can see the carpet's all been replaced. It has a nice center console. Even these pieces here have been covered from the factory trim that's there. We see decoded digital gauges, so those 3 pods, you can pick these up and you can have those replaced, and that's going to go well. It's going to give you all new sensors that tie into the temp, the speedometer, things like that. 61 2s and 3s kind of have that dual pod look here in the dash, and that's kind of what we're seeing, reminiscent. We can see all of this has been done. The speaker panel up here looks nice, presumably still a speaker. This panel here, again, covering the area looks nice. We can also see that you've got the factory parking brake, at least the pedal still there, as well as the brake itself, the brake pedal. We can see, of course, with this being swapped out, any hot rod builder is going to end up swapping out the gas pedal, and that's going to tie into the, more than likely, I think it was fly-by cable. So basically, when you're driving and you're pushing in the pedal, you're obviously pulling the throttle cable, versus the newer setups or by what they call wire, and that's, like a sensor, your newer kind of engines and whatnot. But this, I believe, was a cable driven, so you're going to have a foot pedal here that's not going to match perfectly, but that's typical that you're getting that when you're getting this kind of car. We can see the door panels look really good. Again, they're a little bit more custom, a little bit more modern looking. Looks like they've ran newer switches, and we can see they do have the crank windows. So in the a couple of the years, I think up till 62, you would sometimes see the cranks in here. So those are not power vent windows. Here we can see that it does more than likely have air conditioning. So this little controller, I think, is one of the vintage air ones. It might be one of the other companies. Again, they don't list the information there, so how would you know? But based upon what I've seen in the past and things I've been around, this looks like the AC controls right here. And you would go, well, where's the AC vents? If this is the AC, maybe it's just heater. We don't really know. The AC vents could just simply be under the dash, and that's just where they would go. But again, you could see heavily modified with the seams here. Very nice custom interior. You could see this panel in here with a little bit of how it's wrapped. Those corners are sometimes hard to wrap, even for like really, really high-end interior shops. It doesn't look bad at all, but again, I kind of like the look of the dash the way it is factory, but certainly if I was going to go this far custom, I would say, hey, no big deal. This looks cool to me. It's hot rodish. We could see here, looking at the steering wheel, it's hard to tell if this has all been refurbished. I mean, certainly you could probably spend some money sending this out. Maybe they did. Just hard to kind of tell. But I know oftentimes you can get in here and you can polish all of this and kind of spend a day and cleaning up this stuff if you really want to. But again, it doesn't look bad, so to speak. It's just kind of hard to tell with that photo if it has been detailed. Presumably, this looks like the air suspension setup. Now, I haven't seen a setup like this in a while, but presumably it is. If not, it's something with the Sniper setup. But I do believe it says Ride Tech right here. So you've got that set up for the air suspension. You have your cup holders, which are awesome to have in your car with the little custom center console. Here we can see, again, this is a GM style window switch based upon what I'm accustomed to seeing. And that would obviously tie into modernizing everything, more simplistic, so to speak. Certainly understand this car is not for everyone. This is going to be for someone that's got the money, that just wants a turnkey custom hot rod they could take to a show and probably bring in awards for engine bay, best paint, best interior, things like that. Speaking of best interior, you can see the trunk looks awesome. You've got this kind of speaker type grille material here of the sort, potentially, subs and things in this area or up in this package tray area, but it looks really, really nice. And you've got a little area down here you could put luggage or a little bag or things like that if you're going to a car show and you're not trailering it. We could see the distinctive 61 front end. They did mention some new chrome throughout. So all of this bright work, it looks really good. And the paint looks fantastic. Certainly one of the standout features of this car. And there's the rear 3/4 shot. And I think we're starting to get back towards the beginning. Not a super close-up shot, but again, from what we can see, it looks awesome. There's the engine bay from the passenger side, and then there's your front 3/4 shot. So what do you guys think? I mean, is this the type of car that you think should have went for over $200K? This custom sedan, pretty cool car, a lot of money, obviously. Sometimes I wonder, hey, who's the guy that picked this up? Is it just someone that wants to blow the money and they need a write-off? Or is it someone that maybe is a car collector and just wants one for their collection? I would certainly say the shops that worked on this did a fantastic job of it. You don't always see a high-end custom build like this. A lot of times you see like lipstick on a pig that we sometimes will say, but certainly I tip my cap to the shop that built this car. Now, we haven't seen photos underneath it. We haven't seen behind those awesome trim panels in the engine bay. We haven't, behind the interior. I mean, there's some things that you could still investigate, certainly, if you were looking to buy this car at auction. I'd want to maybe know who did the chrome work if it's not listed here and things like that. But to me, very, very nice car. Whoever was involved, to those few shops I mentioned earlier, awesome job. Devious Customs Kit, shout out to Jeff and team. Is always supplying kits for guys around the world. Very nice car. We've got a couple more left to go through, and I think there'll be some surprises. Again, I think if I were to say surprises, this 61 that we just looked at was probably the biggest surprise from a sedan perspective. We have two more convertibles that you can see there, and certainly I think my friend Charlie's car that we've already covered, it went for less than we really anticipated. That was a big surprise as well. So going to try to round out this project this week in terms of these reviews. And if you recall, we had 11 60s Lincolns, so from 61 to 69, kind of that era, sold for $1.7 million. So there's the total there. And the average sale price of the cars was $158,000. Now I need to add some of my sub bullet points here. I think I started jumping down here and just went ahead and added. But again, stay tuned. Next, we're going to go over this car that sold for $275,000, and we'll see how we'll see if this one was worth it and see what you guys think. But that's for the next one. Stay on the rise, everyone. Thank you for the support. Take care. And let me know what you think in the comments. We out of here. Peace.